You are now listening to the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Hey, this is Jason Kleberg from the Force 5 podcast, a show that forces a guest to come up with a movie-themed top 5 list topic, and then we reveal our picks on air. Top 5 heist films, top 5 tearjerkers, top 5 movie dogs. Every show you'll be asking yourself, what would be on my list? Guests include directors, screenwriters, actors, podcasters, musicians, authors, and even a professional wrestler. Subscribe to the Force 5 podcast, and you won't just be a listener, you'll be a list nerd. The Force 5 podcast, available wherever you're listening now.
Hello out there to everybody. It is April, and welcome to the official Deaf Crocodile podcast for this month. We've got a lot to talk about. Craig, Violet's dad, how are you today? Dennis, welcome. Glad you're both here.
Howdy, howdy.
Alive and kicking.
We can tell by your voice, the kicking is there. A lot to cover. We got a Kickstarter to talk about. We got 2 wonderful titles going up for pre-order today. We've got future plans to tease as per usual. But first, over the last month, been a lot of stuff happening. Dennis, what's going on in your world?
Wow. There's been a lot of precipitation up here in Northern California. I've had quite a bit of rain in Santa Cruz. Beautiful spring weather here in lovely Santa Cruz. Gosh, there's so much that's been going on. I can't even start to think of what to say.
I feel like we just got a David Lynch weather update.
I'm going to pass this over to you, Craig. What's been going on down there in Mar Vista?
So glad Dennis put on the sunglasses for that weather report.
Just wrapped up the restoration of a feature that I don't even know if we've announced it, so I don't want to say the name. But that was a bear of a restoration.
We have announced it in our subscription.
All right. Okay. Well, then the Olivia Newton-John film tomorrow. That restoration's finally done. Original negative was beautifully shot, and unfortunately very scratched. So we used as much of the original negative we could, fixing scratches where we could, and used a Technicolor print they had that was in very good shape to fill in the gaps where the negative was just too damaged. But it looks great. It's really, it's just visually just a beautiful film. Like I'm kind of excited to see it when it's like all done and on a disc and just relax and watch it.
We'll talk about it more, but it is so tremendously, joyously silly. And I mean, it really is like the Monkees, Josie and the Pussycats meets The Man Who Fell to Earth. Because it's about a multiracial college pop band in swinging London. And they essentially get kidnapped by aliens who are floating in an enormous crystal spaceship circling the Earth. And it's utterly bonkers. It was directed by my late friend Val Guest. And
that crystal spaceship is very cool. That visual effect is awesome. very well done, and it's just beautiful. The colors and it's just sparkling because it's crystal. Like it's an impressive effect.
And if you like sunshine pop music from the late 60s, early 70s, and a kind of free design, early Carpenter's vein, the music is really fun. You know, they had hopes, the producers, who were Harry Saltzman, who was co-producer of the James Bond movies up through the early 70s, and Don Kirshner, who was involved with the Monkees, was a big music promoter, impresario, thought they were going to create another instant chart-topping Monkees, Archies-like success, and that did not happen. But it was an early early project for Olivia Newton-John, and I screened it many years ago, the American Cinematheque in LA, and she showed up in person, which was one of my favorite Cinematheque memories. Because I knew Val Guest, and this is a collaborative restoration with the BFI. We are like so amazed to be working with the British Film Institute. It's such a legendary institution. This is our first collaborative project with them. We borrowed things from them before to include on our Blu-rays, but this is the first time we've actually restored a film together with them. They hold the negative, they scanned it, provided the audio as well, and then Craig and his team have been doing the actual restoration work. So the BFI is going to release it in the UK Region B, and we're doing the Region A release. And mostly the same, but there will be a few differences. Artwork, ours will have very different artwork, and I think even some of the few of the bonus materials may be different between our two releases. So. Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, as the Bard once wrote. But that's upcoming. We'll talk about that more next month, but that's super fun.
Hearing you say that, and then hearing that be stated in the Val Guest interview that's on the disc is so fun. Just to hear that be stated throughout history. Yeah, everybody will hear more and more from that coming up soon. And tomorrow is spelled differently. It's Too Morrow, and you'll find out a lot of fun information on that title eventually. But great film. Check it out when it comes out. We got a couple other titles to talk about, including Roy from Space. We should probably highlight the Kickstarter up top here, which I've not even asked either of you guys yet. I'd love to hear just a off-the-cuff improv response. How do you feel about this getting fully funded in less than 12 hours? How mind-blowing was that?
That's astonishing.
That was pretty fast. To be fair,
by the way, the 12 hours started overnight, which is even more astonishing.
I started. I kicked it off at like 11:30 at night instead of midnight. But yeah, like considering the first several hours were in the middle of the night. Yeah, people jumped on it quickly. I mean, to be fair, we set the goal to a number that is kind of like the minimum of like would be worth even having a Kickstarter, but it doesn't come close to covering the actual costs.
It sort of covers the cost of creating the replacement animation for the unlicensed.
So thankfully, people are continuing to support it and ordering the exclusive slipcover edition, which is beautiful. So yeah, hopefully, people will keep finding it and supporting it, because it was not a cheap undertaking for this one.
We keep taking on these projects that are really labor intensive and expensive, and like in the case of Roy from Space, as we've said before, we were about to sign the contract and pull the trigger to license the film and then pay for a new scan of it. And it was sight unseen. We had not seen a single frame of footage. No one had seen a frame of footage for Roy from Space since it was briefly released in 1983. And Craig, remember, the voice of common sense was like, should we do this? And I said, it's called Roy from Space. We gotta do this.
Yeah. And that was kind of my point.
And my favorite lines of dialogue in the film, oh God, I wish I could just hug the movie at this point, is he introduces himself and he says, my name is Roy from Space. I come from planet Earth. And I'm like, wait a second. Are you from space? Are you from planet Earth? Which one is it?
Or is it Earth is in space?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. It's so insane. And
it's so similar to the Thrilling Adventure Hour. Marshall on Mars. He basically is this the same introduction is Marshall on Mars and I'm from Earth.
Yeah. And I wish Hector Lopez Carmona we're here. I hope wherever he is, bouncing around up in the stars with Roy and his compatriots, that he feels a sense of pride and accomplishment, because I think he made a really wonderful film with his team of artists in the early 1980s. And the fact that it vanished so suddenly, we spoke with his grandson, who said he really thinks the film's failure broke his grandfather's heart and may have contributed to his death a couple of years later, that he was so kind of disappointed by the film's failure. So I hope now, many years later, the fact that it will be restored and will be widely available here in North America will shine a wonderful light on Hector Lopez Carmona's work. And we did announce, we can't give any details, but we just found out there's going to be a wonderful launch for the film, the world premiere of the new restoration. And because of that, we're pushing the release date back by just 1 month. But it means that the Kickstarter rewards will be going out a month later. So we really appreciate everybody's patience and understanding. And we will make an announcement soon about what that is. But I think it's a really great tribute to Lopez Carmona's work. And, and I think will be a great place to first screen the film. So that's the reason why we're pushing it back just a month.
It'll be for a good reason. Just give it some time, and you will see why. I'm so excited for people to be able to see this and be able to live with it, and to see something come to fruition. I mean, when I first visited both of you guys, I think that was 2 years ago almost, and it was just coming into plan there. And now here we are, and very full circle. This has been long time coming. So to be able to hold this in just a few months is very exciting.
I remember showing you those raw scans that we had just gotten.
Yeah.
And those raw scans were the first time literally anyone had seen any footage from the film since 1983. So 42 years at that time, I guess.
And given its reception then, it only played in a couple theaters for a week or so, and those were probably pretty empty theaters. So, very few people have ever seen this. Because, if theaters were packed, they would have kept playing it.
Well, the fact that now there's a Kickstarter that hundreds of people are supporting, and a lot of people are really excited to see this film. It was only the third animated feature ever made in Mexico. I think it's really important for the history and appreciation of Mexican animation. Amazing synthesizer, weirdo, wonderful score for the film. I don't even want to begin to describe the animation style. It is so strange and disorienting and wonderful. No, we're just super excited. I think we said before, we have kind of a scale of kind of obscure, rare, semi-lost, mostly lost, and then the very top is really
no one has ever seen it.
Really absolutely completely lost. And there are a handful of films that have been in that absolutely completely lost, unavailable category. One was Solomon King, and another is Roy from Space. And I'm so happy that in both cases we were able to work with the families of the filmmakers. We licensed Roy from Space from the producer's daughter, Andrea Perez Mata. Her father produced the film, and we're able to restore it, and now it can be appreciated and enjoyed, because it is really entertaining. It's really enjoyable. Again, it is a really silly film, and it's wonderful for that reason.
I just checked on Letterboxd, and according to Letterboxd, 23 members say they have seen it, and I'm gonna have to assume that at least half of those are lying.
Unless they were in Mexico City in 1983 in the theater.
Or they worked on it in the last 2 years for you.
That's true. That's true.
But
yes,
yeah,
one of them is probably Alejandro Vidal, who was
I'm sure he's
our friend,
he's logged it.
film historian and researcher, who is the resident expert and was essential in getting us to license and restore the film. So huge credit to Alejandro.
But yeah, 23.
So that's probably even inflated.
But yeah, like I said, and that's inflated.
Yeah. So we really hope people, if you haven't, will support the Kickstarter. Again, not only do you get super groovy Kickstarter only artwork by Haley Buck, but it really helps us with the restoration of the film. The goal that we set, as Craig said, was kind of artificially low and sort of barely covers the cost of creating the replacement animation for the film that Isabel Aspen and Brian Smee have created just really brilliantly. But on top of that, there's the cost of scanning, there's digital restoration, there's color grade, there's so many other costs involved with the restoration of the film. So the more we're able to raise through the Kickstarter, the more it allows us to offset those costs and honestly to keep doing really ambitious and expensive restoration projects like this, because this is all funded in-house. And now with support from Kickstarter by members of the public. But like, we don't get grants, we don't have some huge deep pocket fund out there that allows us to restore these films. So when there's a project like Solomon King or Roy from Space that is even more expensive than usual, it is amazing when people support it through Kickstarter.
And our Kickstarters are a little different than most. Most Kickstarters are, here, we're trying to raise this much money, and if we do, we'll do this thing. And if we don't, we can't do this thing. Ours are usually, hey, we did this thing. Can you help us pay for it now? So yeah, the heavy lifting on it is already done. So this is more trying to help us dig out of the hole we dug, licensing and scanning and restoring it.
Well, you know what else is trippy, kind of like the animation in Roy from Space, is a lot of Shahram Mokri's films. Let's talk about Black Rabbit, White Rabbit, because, I mean, for months we have been calling this a Mobius strip of a movie. And for anybody that is not familiar with what that means, which is most people in the world, because that is hard to decipher, Dennis, explain to us what Black Rabbit, White Rabbit is and why everybody should be looking forward to this.
Wow.
Explain Black Rabbit, White Rabbit.
You have 13 seconds.
It's a Mobius strip.
Oh, man.
Even having seen it multiple times, I cannot easily or adequately summarize what is so wonderful and metaphysical about Shahram's filmmaking and Black Rabbit, White Rabbit. If anyone is familiar with his previous movies like Careless Crime or Fish and Cat, he is sort of the cinematic equivalent of M.C. Escher's drawings, where surreal and seemingly impossible things are being depicted, and your brain, as Craig said, spends a lot of time trying to figure out how it's being done, and at the end of the day you can't quite figure it out, and yet you're confronted with it.
Yeah, Shahram himself, I think, I won't get the quote exactly right, but he said that the reason we like watching nonlinear narratives in films is because it's a puzzle that our minds reassemble and put together, in order and make sense of it. And with his films, he's trying to rob your mind of that ability, because he's doing a non-linear narrative, but he's doing it without editing. So it is like an Escher. It's exactly like an Escher drawing where you can even take your finger and trace, where this thing that seemingly makes complete sense, and then you realize like that's not possible. And he's doing that with film, which is just mind blowing. How he can manipulate time and space the way he does is it's just fun to watch. Like it is like there's no other better explanation than an Escher drawing is that it's not going to make sense, but that's the point. Like the joy is in looking at it and being confused by how much it does and doesn't work in time and space. It's just a joy to watch. And talk about films that benefit from repeat watching. You're not going to get bored of watching his films repeatedly because you're going to keep trying to figure it out, and you never will because it's an Escher drawing.
Well, and in all of his films, in an interesting way, you're kind of not watching the same film each time. It's not just a different experience. You are going to see new different things. Depending on how you felt at that moment, your perspective is going to be different. You're going to understand what's happening in just a few minutes. Well, maybe. You might remember what is going to happen in a few minutes, maybe not understand it. But and that might shape just the way that you experience these movies entirely. I mean, Fish and Cat, I'm still not fully understanding and in love with that thing. This is going to be an entirely different world for people.
Yeah, and what's happening in the background is just as important as what's happening in the foreground, because he's always conscious of and manipulating time and space. And so there'll be things happening in the background in one shot, and then 3 minutes later in that same shot, that thing that was in the background is not in the background anymore. It's what you're looking at, but your mind is like, but I already saw that. It's a trip. It's so much fun.
He really plays with cinema, time, and memory are kind of his great themes. And I would say if you're a fan of David Lynch, circa Lost Highway or Twin Peaks: The Return, if you like Tarkovsky's cinema.
Literally, Lost Highway is my favorite David Lynch film. No wonder I love Mockery so much.
if you like early Peter Greenaway, circa Drowning by Numbers or A Zed and Two Knots or The Cook, Thief, His Wife and Her Lover, I think you will really, really appreciate Sharam's work. Again, there's no easy summary, but essentially it is set during the production of a film directed by someone named Sharam. And there are multiple layers of reality and illusion at work. There's a lot of doppelgangers and doubles during the film. There are inanimate objects that have their own kind of sentient reality and destiny. At one point, a giant prop coffee cup starts walking around the set very mysteriously. It's a really, we just love his films to the point where he's the only director that we've actually licensed every feature film that he's put out.
And now his shorts.
So one of the really cool things about this release is actually from the very beginning when we released Sharam's first 4 films in a box set, we were hoping to include some of his early short movies, The Dragonfly Storm and others, and they just weren't available. And God bless Sharam, he was able to actually get us copies. I think he subtitled them himself, and he had hand carried them to us so that we could get them last year. And the other part of this is that Sharam is one of the great modern Iranian filmmakers, and of course, right now we are involved in this horrific war / not war with Iran. And Sharam and several other dear friends of ours in the Iranian film industry are in, danger, trapped in Iran. And, so we are sending all of our prayers and positive energies to him, his friends, and family. This is truly awful that we're putting this film out while Iran is in the news every day. And, I wish that Sharam were here and safe and could attend some of the screenings of the film. He was hoping to travel back to the U.S., where he has spent quite a bit of time over the years. And unfortunately, just before he was scheduled to leave Iran, the bombing began a month ago. And so he's been trapped there. So that part of it is really heartbreaking. So, again, we wish him and his friends, family, and colleagues the very best, and that they stay safe during these terrible times.
Indeed. There's been a lot of conversation about all of that over these last couple of months, and just glad that we could share more from this culture with the world, and really highlight some of the artistic masterpieces that have come out of this part of the world. As far as artistry, I really hope people appreciate the art for this month. Craig, this has been a journey for you trying to get the right thing found for this. So tell us about that.
Well, yeah, I immediately had the idea based on the title of the film and the fact that Sharam is such a huge fan and influenced by M.C. Escher, that I immediately called Brian Level, who I've known for forever, seems like forever now, who did our logo, and he contributed artwork to the Pied Piper and a bunch of other stuff. And so I'm like, Brian, can you, we got this title coming up. Can you do an MC Escher drawing? Like people do.
Yeah, just easily in your free time.
And he was definitely very hesitant. He's like, I'll see what I can come up with. And I think it turned out just kind of perfect. There's a famous Escher drawing of, I believe they're black and white doves. And the negative space between the white doves makes the black doves. So being the title of the film is Black Rabbit, White Rabbit, I was like, hey, can you do something similar to that, but with rabbits? So he created this beautiful, it's a background that wraps around the whole slipcase of black rabbits and white rabbits in an M.C. Escher-esque design. And then he took other elements from the film, and that's kind of the foreground on top of the Escher thing. So I think it turned out fantastic. I wish Sharam were here. He had planned on being here because I'm very excited to see his reaction to it because he hasn't seen it. But knowing what a Escher fan is, I hope he'll see it and instantly know what it is and love it. Well, yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully he gets to see it soon.
And we should mention that although Sharam is like one of the great modern Iranian filmmakers, this film was not actually shot in Iran. It was shot in Tajikistan, which is a Central Asian country, which is not too far away from Iran. It doesn't border on it, but the Tajiki language, which is used in the film, is related to Persian, and my understanding is that most Persian Farsi speakers are able to understand Tajiki without much trouble. So, and of course, we're releasing it with English subtitles.
Speaking of understanding, we have all kinds of contextual bonus features we should talk about. What else we got on this disc there, Dennis?
Well, we have the 3 very rare early Mokri shorts. I mentioned The Dragonfly Storm from 2002, Limits of the Circle from 2005, and Ando Sea from 2007. They're each about 15 minutes long. And this is the first ever physical media release for any of those, as far as I know. We have an audio commentary by film programmer and critic Tori Potenza. It's the first time Tori has contributed a wonderful commentary. We have a new visual essay called The Maze, Entrances and Exits in Black Rabbit, White Rabbit, from filmmaker and scholar Stephen Broomer, who has contributed to several of our releases recently, and I adore Stephen's work. It's incredibly elegant and lyrical and insightful. And then for the illustrated booklet, we have essays by Walter Chaw, who contributes to all of our releases, and by film scholars Alexandra Heller-Nicholas and Michelle Kisner. And they are both wonderful and detailed essays, both about the new film and also cover Shahram's previous 4 features, so that if anyone hasn't seen them, you can see the thematic and artistic connections and parallels with the new film, because I think Black Rabbit, White Rabbit is very much of a piece with his earlier films, Careless Crime, Invasion, Fish and Cat.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think it's an amazing package. We were hoping to have Shahram do an in-depth interview for us, and unfortunately he was not able to send it to us in the months leading up to the release. As he did, if you get our 4-film set of his previous movies, which we just reprinted in anticipation of Black Rabbit coming out, one of the bonus features are very extensive interviews that Shahram shot where he talks about each of the films. We were hoping to do something similar for Black Rabbit, and literally were just technically not able to transfer the interview from Iran to us here in the States. So
I am very excited to see people respond to this and log it on Letterboxd. That's one of my favorite things, is just to see what new things have popped up from Deaf Crocodile reviews on Letterboxd over the last couple months. And big highlight right now is seeing people be mystified by Dead Mountaineers Hotel. So very, very eager to hear people's response to this. But the other one that goes well with that is Puppets. And man, is our double feature for this month going to be one that will blow people away. Other than Black Rabbit, White Rabbit, let's talk about Legend of the Sacred Stone. Craig, what's the history on this one?
The history?
Yeah, please go into it in as many scholarly words as you can.
Yeah, that's not my bag.
Your history with it, maybe.
My history with it is, Dennis. How did this one even come across our?
This was actually
our desk.
A title that was recommended to us by one of our Discord members, I believe, or it could have been somebody who emailed us directly, but it was actually recommended to us. And I will, if you give me 2 seconds, tell you the name. It was Edward Maher. So thank you, Edward, if you listen to this, for recommending that we look into some of the wonderful Pili Budaichi glove puppet martial arts movies. So Pili International Multimedia has been making incredible glove puppet martial arts TV programs and several related features since the mid-late 1980s in Taiwan. So this is the first Taiwanese film that we've put out. We're very excited about that. And Budaichi glove puppet is a traditional art with these very sizable, 2.5 to 3 foot tall puppets that are operated from below. So you see them full figure generally, so with legs and feet. And,
you don't see. You would never know watching it that these were being manipulated by someone with their hand up their shirt. like it doesn't look like that. It looks like the Team America stuff, but no strings. It's kind of incredible.
But yeah, they're an amazing combination of like Team America, World Police, Thunderbirds, Argo, the Dark Crystal with like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, or classic Shaw Brothers martial arts films from the 70s, because these are epic stories that are being told entirely with puppets. And the Peely has produced a number of TV series like Peely Golden Beam, Peely Eye, Peely Crazy Blade, Peely Purple Vein, Peely Sky Entrance, Peely the Nine Dragon Throne. I just love the titles of them. And then in the early 2000s, they decided to do a feature film that would kind of have a higher budget and sort of more ambitious production values, and that's what we're releasing is Legend of the Sacred Stone. But it really is kind of an outgrowth of the TV series work that they had done, although they created all new sets and puppets for the feature film. And it's never been released here in the States before, and we are thrilled to work with the team at Peely International.
I mean, I know a lot of our releases most always like unheard of. People didn't know this existed. And then the reaction most people have is they're surprised. Like, how did something this good not, like, how did I not know this existed? That was my reaction to Legend of the Sacred Stone. Like, it checks off most of the boxes of things I would really enjoy. And then I saw it and I was like, how on earth has this existed for so long and I didn't know it existed? I teased it back when we teased the subscription that, like, lots of labels have been putting out martial arts films, and we finally found some that have the Deaf Crocodile twist to it. We're finally jumping into the martial arts films like everyone else, except not like everyone else.
And people were guessing all sorts of wonderful titles, and I don't think anybody got that it was Budaichi glove puppet movie. So the plot is very complex and labyrinthine, but essentially it's about the protagonist, the main hero of these stories and of most of the cycle of the Peely TV shows, is named Su Huan Jen, and he's very recognizable because he has this long, really beautiful mane of white hair. And
not unlike the person talking right now.
Thank you very much. And he and his group of Wulin warriors are trying to prevent the villain Mo Kuei and his spectral assassins, who are called the Unkind, who are actually some of my very favorite characters, because they're these incredibly weird skeletal creatures, a little bit like the Skeksis in the Dark Crystal, if you're familiar with that, and I'm a big Dark Crystal fan. But they have a really deranged sense of humor, which is one of the great things about them as villainous characters, is they have a really like bizarre, offbeat comic sensibility, and it gives a great edge to the film. And then there are huge sword fights and puppets spinning and blood spurting and puppets sweating and explosions and puppets riding on swords like the Silver Surfer. and it's just so marvelous and wildly entertaining. So we're so excited that we can finally share this with an audience here in North America. And I should say we're going to confirm right here and now that we're releasing the sequel to this, which is called Demigod, The Legend Begins, which was produced a couple of years ago, and that is going to be coming out later in the summer. So we said it wasn't enough to put out just one Budaichi glove puppet film. We had to license 2 of them. So we have a second one that's going to be coming out in a couple months. Equally amazing, although different, also involves Su Huan Jen, the kind of white-haired hero. It's sort of his origin story, and it is equally incredible. So we hope people will get super excited, love Legend of the Sacred Stone, and then want to explore Demigod, The Legend Begins as well.
And Richard Cox is handling the limited edition artwork, and he just keeps raising the bar with everything he does for us. The artwork for Legend of the Sacred Stone is mind-blowing. I was able to kind of create a, not necessarily time lapse, but I with all the updates he kept sending me, I created a little video showing the progress of the work on the artwork. So we added that to the disc. And for the first time we've done this, Demigod, that box art connects to Legend of the Sacred Stone. So they kind of work all together as one piece of artwork. It's seeing what Richard's working on as amazing as the Sacred Stone artwork turned out, I think he's like raised the bar again. The Demigod artwork, like, it pairs with that, and oh my god, it's so good. Like, these are going to look real good in your hands.
Richard and I were talking about this when Richard did my show, and my goodness, just hearing him be passionate about art is so fun. He is such a great person to have involved in stuff like this. So again, kudos to Craig, who always knows exactly who to pick for eeach release.
Yeah, I'm so happy that we're working with Richard. Like, it was always like, I was always like waiting for the project where like this would be good for Richard, and then it turned out, like, I think Sirius was the first one. I was like, this would be great for Richard, and he's just so damn good that I'm just like he could do every release of ours and knock it out of the park. Like, he's so talented.
And that's the thing. He probably could do every single one and just crush it.
Yeah. Just amazing.
All right. What else we got on this disc, gentlemen?
Well, I was very fortunate to do an in-depth interview with the director of the film, who is the president of Peely International as well, Chris Wang, and several members of the Peely puppeteering team, talking about the making of Legend of the Sacred Stone. And I have to say, it's utterly astonishing, some of the stories they related about the production, especially scenes that were filmed with the puppets over water. And not to give too much away, but the puppeteers had to wear scuba gear, and these are not professional scuba divers, but they had to wear aqualungs, scuba gear, and air tanks so that they could be underwater operating the puppets from below, and the commitment and artistry. And the puppets are also heavy. They're really substantial, so they have to have a lot of like upper body and arm strength and muscles to even operate these. So if you can imagine like being in moving water, underwater, wearing a scuba tank, and then having to expertly manipulate puppets so that you're not scene is just incredible. So I think when everyone watches these films, remember that they're being operated by master puppeteers, and literally, I think jaws will hit the floor at the level of artistry, and it takes years and years for people who apprentice and then sort of work their way up the ranks to become master puppeteers working with Peely in the art of Budachi. And Chris, one of the other great things is in the video interview, he talks about his grandfather and his father, who are literally national treasures in Taiwan for their work in Budachi on stage. And then Chris's father had kind of pioneered the transition to doing Budachi glove puppetry on TV, which Chris and his late brother Vincent continued and have expanded. And now younger members of their family have also joined the Peely team and are trying to carry on the tradition. So we have that interview, which is subtitled in English. We have a new audio commentary by puppeteer and filmmaker Ben Wolfe-Page, who is the associate editor of the Puppetry Journal for the Puppeteers of America. So he brings an amazing wealth of knowledge about the art of puppetry to his commentary. It's the first time Ben has done one for us. We have a new visual essay by film historian Evan Chester on puppets, wuxia, and spirituality, which goes into some of the history behind the kind of myths and legends that contribute to Legend of the Sacred Stone. We have an original trailer for the feature with subtitles, and then we have a really amazing 5-minute compilation reel that was put together for us by our friends at Peely in Taiwan that shows the evolution of the main character of Su Huanjian over the course of 40 years in Peely, the TV series. So you get all of these amazing clips showing Su Huanjian from the very early shows from the mid-1980s through the 90s, the early 2000s, up to just very recently. I think the latest ones are from 2024. So it's this character spotlight on Su Huanjian, and it's just fantastic to be able to see how that character was represented and evolved, the look of it in the TV show. We have a 60-page illustrated booklet with an essay by Fantasia Film Festival programmer Rupert Bottenberg, as well as a new essay by our dear friend Walter Chaw. And that's a fantastic set. Rupert also writes about the history of the Huang family and of the art of Budaichi puppetry, and then goes into detail talking about Legend of the Sacred Stone. So I'm really hoping that we're going to kind of light the fire for a whole generation of Budaichi puppet fans. I have to say, I've always loved the art of puppetry. Many, many years ago, when I was very young, about 5-6 years old, my family briefly ran a puppet theater in Ontario, Canada. So ever since they were marionettes mostly, but ever since I was very young, I've always had huge love and admiration for the art of puppetry. So I'm so excited that we're able to put out this film. And again, I really hope that it leads people to start researching and searching out other examples of Budaichi glove puppetry.
Is there a huge number of these films? This is not something that, until it had come up in the Discord, I had heard anybody talking about.
No, there's not a lot of Budaichi glove puppet films. There are a couple other movies using that style that were made by Peely, and I know they're planning to continue, I think, hopefully doing some more in the future. You can find some documentaries. You can find mostly unsubtitled clips from their previous TV series over the years, so you can see other examples of it. But it's not like there's tons and tons of other Budaichi. We hope again, people will be inspired. Maybe some filmmakers will want to go out there and create their own Budaichi glove puppet epics.
Incredible. This is a wild month of two quite different films back to back with each other.
They're very different.
One thing that we should talk about too is while you are ordering on the website for these two films that are now up for pre-order as you're listening to this, you might notice that the website is still not fully functional following our fairly massive sale that just happened. Any thoughts or feelings on that, Craig?
We just got far more orders than we ever anticipated. So to try and help facilitate getting those orders out and not having new orders come in that are going to be sitting waiting forever, we kind of shut down the shop for all our back catalog. And then we also just need to do a big inventory to see what's left. A lot of titles did sell out. So if we've got to figure out what we have left. So it's going to take some time to get things back on track. But we didn't want to be taking orders and having it, just sit there because it's still waiting for this backlog of orders that we're still shipping. So the new pre-orders we'll have up there so people can place their pre-orders.
Keys for the
but the rest of our catalog will be offline until we get the new inventory set up.
Right. It's a nice world when I can see that a company that I'm strongly desiring a huge amount of people to discover get an overwhelming number of sales. However, for everybody that wants to continue supporting and now suddenly can't, I empathize with you. That being said, it's always a good thing to see more people enjoy these. So eager to see the hopefully expanded fan base with all these brand new orders.
It was interesting to look at the analytics and see that over half the orders were from people who had never ordered from us before.
Wow!
So that's encouraging. It's a bit of a bummer that their first order is taking so long to get to them because there were so many orders.
Right.
I would like to, reiterate that that's not normal. Once things are back up and running smoothly again, you can expect orders will go out quickly again. But we're doing everything we can.
Yeah, and we had actually tried to prepare for this and make plans, and I have to say the flash sale was so much busier and more successful than we even kind of hoped or anticipated, and by orders of magnitude more than the previous flash sale that we had done just for our standard edition. So we really have been kind of amazed but also overwhelmed. So we will be up and running, and we just have to count and see what inventory we have left. I know, as Craig said, we got sold out on a bunch of titles, so we will be reprinting standard editions for things that are OOP, but that may take a little while for us to get them reordered. And in the meantime, there are retailers like Diabolic DVD, Orbit DVD, eBay, other brick and mortar stores, Amazon, where, if people want to pick up our product, it's also out there as well.
It's all great options. We certainly love all of our retail partners out there and continue to work with them because they do great work. Let's see. Anything else coming up in the Deaf Crocodile world that we want to talk about? I know that Dennis had let some titles slip in the Discord. Do we want to highlight those to the rest of the world?
I think we have mentioned that our first release in July is going to be our second silent genre film set by a pioneering Czech filmmaker named Jan S. Kolar. And it's two amazing feature films that he directed in the 1920s. The Arrival from the Darkness, which is so mind-blowingly strange. It's about black magic and the Black Plague and rare manuscripts and people frozen in time for hundreds of years. And it's from 1921. It's incredible. And then the second feature, St. Wenceslas, is from the very tail end of the silent era. It was actually the most ambitious and expensive film that was made in Czechia at the time. And unfortunately, it came out just as the transition into sound was happening. And by the time it came out, people were all, excited about seeing sound films, not silent movies. And so it was not a success, but it's this beautiful, sweeping medieval epic in the style of like Alexander Nevsky or Ilya Muromets, which we've put out. And so we are super excited to be releasing these two rare silent genre films. Our first set was very successful last October by German director Henrik Galeen with Alraune and the Student of Prague. So we are planning to release more and more silent cinema, kind of in a Deaf Crocodile, kind of art house meets genre vein. And this release, I don't want to go into too much detail, but the Janes Kolar set will have tremendous bonus features and shorts and incredible rare materials.
Yeah, mind blowing.
Oh my God.
Extras on this one.
So much. So, I mean, as much, if not more than almost any other release, except maybe the 2551 trilogy, which had a whole disc of bonus materials. But we're super excited. We have several other really amazing.
I was because I'm assuming I'm assuming probably next month we'll dig into the next subscription period and have a lot to talk about. But I was just scrolling through the next subscription period and I was like, holy shit, that's a lot. So the back half of this year is stacked. Seriously stacked.
Well, and this is actually will be our second major Czech release with our dear friend Irena Kovarova of the Comeback Company and our wonderful colleagues at the Narodny Film Archive in Prague. So this is our second, or will be our second Czech release after Krakatit, Taka Vavra's amazing kind of atomic age noir that we put out at the beginning of the year. But there's a lot more great Czech cinema coming later in the year after the Janes Kolar silent film set. So we are super excited. This is a big year for Czech cinema with Deaf Crocodile. And even stuff we now have planned for 2027, but 2026 is going to be packed with great.
Yeah, I'm still kind of overwhelmed by how much stuff we have planned for the next 6 months.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. Yeah.
Well, speaking of,
go ahead.
Speaking of that, do we have dates so we can talk about for the next subscription? I believe that was kind of talked about in the Discord.
Not set in stone.
Okay.
So I don't want to say something and then change it and people be like, "What? But you said." I'm like, yeah, well, we changed our mind.
Got it.
It will cover, unless something radically changes, but it will cover the second half of the year, so July through December releases. And what's I have to say was really funny is that the Discord members have gotten really good at trying to guess and suss out what our upcoming releases are, being Deaf Crocodile fans. But, we will drop even a very vague hint and suddenly people will be like flooding us with guesses like, is it this? Is it this?
There's some stuff in that back half of the year that they're not going to guess.
You say that now, and the minds in the Discord kind of always blow me away.
It is kind of crazy.
It's true. It is true, and in fact, one of the releases towards the end of the year was recommended to us by one of our most kind of prolific Discord contributors, who's always sending us lists of just mind blowing movies to look into, and this was one of the ones that he recommended actually several times. He's like, "You got to put this movie out. You got to look into it." We finally did, and we're super excited. We've actually been working on the bonus features for it, doing interviews for a release towards the end of the year. So I highly encourage everyone listening to this, if you're not a Discord member, it is a super fun place to talk about all things related to weird, wonderful, and rare cinema, as well as food and hobbies and pets and music that you love and stuff related to other labels and people trading discs. I mean, it's a really fantastic kind of interchange that's going on. A lot of stuff about Deaf Crocodile, and Craig shares artwork in progress, and we'll share rare photos. We've shared a bunch of photos of for example, Gottfried Kolditz, who's the director of Signals and In the Dust of the Stars, and two of the movies in our DIFA fairy tale set, which is I think starting to go out to people now, certainly the subscription orders. And his son, Stefan, who's a screenwriter, has shared a ton of wonderful photos of his father working on set, and we just weren't able to include all of them in either the DIFA sci-fi or the fairy tale sets. We've shared a bunch of those online through the Discord. So you can see a lot of those kind of rare materials that we may not have included in the booklets, but we share with our members. So we encourage everyone to sign up for a membership, and it also, that support is really important to us as we keep expanding Deaf Crocodile. And I am not going to say anything other than today we signed the contract on a movie that I have been chasing for many, many years. It's a vampire film. That's all I'm going to say.
Already said more. I love it.
But I will say it's one of 3 vampire films, really rare and obscure vampire films that we have been working on, and we just signed the contract for this today, and I am so elated because this one has been on my want list for like well over 2 decades. I was like, oh man, I love this movie and I would love to put it out someday, and now it's going to happen, and I'm just could not be more excited.
And speaking of the Discord, the Romero's Club memberships at every level include store credit. At the lowest level, it's $50 and you get $50 credit, so it doesn't really cost you anything. But on top of access to the Discord and the store credit, you also get access to the members only section of our website. And we do toss in merch and other, autographed items and things signed by the director or artists in there. And then we do have a very limited supply of deluxe editions that are out of print that we have, saved in our office just for Discord members. So, like, if you're collecting all the Deaf Crocodile stuff and you missed out on a couple of the older deluxe editions, sometimes they might be available in the members only shop. So,
yeah, but that does not include Treasures of Soviet Animation Volume 1 or Tragedy of Man. So sorry.
Yeah, there's some that, like, I mean, that are just gone. Like, they're just,
yeah.
And I mean, even hell, it's not a deluxe edition, but Delta Space Mission with a slipcover back in our old OCN days. I don't even have a copy of that. So,
Oof.
like, when things are gone, they're gone.
Yeah.
I would like to, send out a remembrance to, every week, you'll look at either your social media feed or the news, and you'll see some other, amazing artist, filmmaker, performer that's passed away. Just got news that the great Sid Croft of Sid and Marty Croft, creators of H.R. Puffin Stuff and Lidsville, Land of the Lost, the Bugaloos, so many just amazingly strange and colorful and creative Saturday morning kids shows passed away. And when I was programming for the American Cinematheque in the early 1990s, we did a kids matinee series, and we had been screening kind of a lot of big musicals like The Music Man and Sound of Music and things like that kind of the parents knew. And I was like, why don't we try and do some stuff like that I watched as a kid and that maybe, people of my generation would really like to see. And I adored Sid and Marty Krofft shows. Puffin Stuff was just utter genius. All of their shows growing up in suburban Pittsburgh. And so I started asking around, and I said, does anyone know how to reach Sid and Marty Krofft? And nobody did. I called up the Museum of TV and Radio and the Academy of TV, and a couple of people were like, are they still alive? I thought maybe they passed away, and they hadn't been active for a while. And this is a couple months of me trying to find them with no luck. And I was sitting at my desk, and I looked down, and there were the white pages for LA. And I picked them up, and I went down to the K's, Krofft, and it said Krofft, Sid and Marty Productions, Inc., with a phone number. And I dialed. It was probably like an old rotary phone for all I know. Rang, and a voice picked up and said, hello, this is Marty Krofft. Who's calling? And it was like, to quote Raiders of the Lost Ark, a radio for talking to God. I was speaking to like one of the gods of my childhood, imagination. And Sid and Marty were super excited. They were incredibly friendly and cooperative. They didn't think anybody was going to show up, but they got somebody to wear one of the old Puffin Stuff costumes. We got Billy Hayes, who played Witchy Poo, and I think Johnny Whitaker was there. And when we did the first of our tributes to them, we had to turn away, I think, 400 or 500 people from the DGA theater. There were so many people who showed up with Sid and Marty Krofft lunchboxes and coloring books and puppets and everything. And it was amazing. And we brought them back a couple times, and it kind of sparked this renewal of interest in their pioneering work in children's TV that pretty much continued for the rest of their lives. Marty passed away a few years ago, and now Sid is gone. But I just want to, send a huge thank you to Sid and Marty Krofft both for everything that they created and did as puppeteers, and they were amazing.
My how times have changed, though, when you can find something with a phone number on it and call up and hear, hey, this is Marty Krofft. And nowadays you get stuck into somebody's message request on Instagram, and that's the end of the line.
That's an absolutely true story. Looked it up in the white pages, and he picked up the phone, and God bless him that he did. That was one of my all-time favorite Cinematheque programs was with Sid and Marty. The poor guy that they got to wear the Puffin Stuff costume, I think it had not been worn since the late 70s, and I think he was almost suffocating inside. But he made it, and it was incredible. So yeah. So everybody, watch an episode of Puffin Stuff or the Lidsville or the Bugaloos in Sid's memory.
I don't remember the last time I saw Lidsville even like referenced anywhere, let alone available to watch. I'm curious if it's out there.
I know they put out a bunch of them on DVD years ago, and I'm not sure if they've shown up on Blu-ray. But funny enough, we've been thinking about Sid and Marty Krofft a lot. Not that I ever am far from thinking about Sid and Marty Krofft's productions, but the Deaf Fairy Tale set have a lot of their kind of surreal, psychedelic kind of colors and costumes, especially Frau Holle, which is very like Sid and Marty Krofft meets Pee-wee's Playhouse in terms of incredibly artificial, highly stylized sets and costumes, and it's really fantastic. So I'd been thinking about their work quite a bit lately in connection with Frau Holle. So
I can't remember. Bassett may have even brought those up in the interview that's on the disc. I feel like he may have.
Yes. And we've been looking at some other, I have to say, incredible Märchenfilme, fairy tale films. So I hope and pray there will be some more really wild and wonderful stuff. I know that Eureka Masters of Cinema is planning their own Deaf Fairy Tale box set, which I think includes a couple of the titles that we've put out, but then has, I think, maybe 3 films that aren't on our set, which is great because then people can buy ours and then hopefully buy the Masters of Cinema. But then there's some titles that we're now looking into completely unrelated, but in the weird, amazing world of American film that would probably be way down the line that I think will blow people's minds even more, if that's possible, than the Deaf Fairy Tale set we're releasing right now. So there's so much amazing creative stuff from filmmakers worldwide. That's what I think continually astonishes Craig and I, is every time we think, oh, well, maybe we've tapped out this vein, and then somebody will recommend something, I'm like, oh my God, this is so amazing. How come, as with Legend of the Sacred Stone, we never knew there were Budaichi glove puppet wuxia martial arts movies. How could we have lived this long and not been aware of these? And now we're so excited to share these with the world here.
Well, to leave on an interesting note, you both and all of us that love all of these things that you guys put out consume a lot of other media. So just checking in, Dennis, what's you're big on vinyl collecting. What's something you've spun around the house lately?
Oh, wow.
Not to put you on the spot too much.
Well, a record that I have been playing quite a bit is, let's see, it's a late 60s kind of Latin boogaloo record by Kent Gomez and his orchestra. And it's actually a record I had wanted for years and years. And I picked that up recently. And then another one is an amazing early 1970s, really kind of moody, introspective folk album by John Ongayak. And it was released by the Eskimo Language Workshop. And Light in the Attic, I think, reissued it a few years ago. I managed to find an original copy of it. And the first side of the record is in his native language, singing really wonderful, almost, like Nick Drake-like kind of eerie, moody songs. And then the second half, he sings in English. And those are 2 records that I've been playing a lot. Kent Gomez, My Ghetto, and John Ongayak, I'm Lost in the City. So,
What about you, Violet's dad? Any films or music that you've been consuming lately that you'd like to highlight for everybody?
Watched a movie last night, which was a rare treat.
Do we want to piss people off with this review now, Craig?
I won't go into depth. I mean, I didn't hate the movie. I was just, I think my hopes were a little higher, and it just didn't reach them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I watched John Carpenter's The Fog, and it started off pretty well, and then it just kind of felt like it dragged, and then didn't make a whole lot of sense, and then it was over, and I was like, all right, well, I like a lot of his other films.
And this is where Dennis pipes in and says, well, and I went to elementary school with Deborah Hill, and when she was...
No.
But something we watched that we really did like, it's not a movie, but it's on, I think it's HBO, DTF St. Louis, 7-episode miniseries, so well written, so well directed. The actors are all fantastic. Just really well done, beginning to end. It's kind of a murder mystery whodunit that's all done in kind of flashbacks, and kind of keeps you guessing. There's lots of twists that you don't anticipate, but because it's so well written, they all make sense. Roger and I both kind of had an idea where it was going to go at the end, and we were right, but how they got there, we didn't see coming. So it was still, even though we're like, we kind of figured it out, it was still really interesting to see how they got there. Just a great show. Highly recommended.
Nice.
Well, and we've been watching, Maria and I, a bunch of gritty New York crime movies. I'm not quite sure how we got hooked on it, but now we're like just gobbling them up. And some films that I'd wanted to see for years and never had. So we watched Across 110th Street, which is terrific, with Yaphet Kotto and Anthony Quinn. Cotton Comes to Harlem, the Ossie Davis movie, which is really unusual and surprising. It's got a lot of humor in it, based on the Chester Himes detective novels. And then Sidney Lumet's The Anderson Tapes with Sean Connery and Diane Cannon. And a very young Christopher Walken. I think it was his first feature film. And it also is really surprising. And Mario was like, oh my God, I can't believe that people were able to make studio movies back then in the early 70s that were so strange and like outside the box and unpredictable. Like The Anderson Tapes is a heist film, but it really doesn't go the way that most heist films go. And so we're trying to catch up on our sort of gritty 70s New York. And I lived in New York starting in 83, so it was a little bit after the time period. But like whenever I watch Wolfen, which is a film we love, and I see, oh my God, there's just the blasted post-apocalyptic look of all of the buildings. And I realize, oh, wow, I was in New York. I'm actually going to give a shout out to a wonderful book that just came out of stories of films that were shot in New York in the 1970s and 80s that was just released by my great friend Christina Ward's Feral House Publishing. It's called Cinematic Immunity. And if you love movies kind of shot in New York City, this is taken from interviews with crew members who worked on like Wolfen and The French Connection and, Coppola films and Scorsese movies. And they are unbelievably insane stories of kind of the Easy Riders, Raging Bulls era of filmmaking in New York City. Cinematic Immunity, it just came out and it is fantastic. So I highly recommend that to people who love movies.
Nice. Good shout out there. Well, we got a lot going on. Thanks everybody for the patience in response to the sale. Check out the 2 new titles up for pre-order today. And on that note, thanks for hanging out, guys. We'll see you all next month.
Thank you so much, Ryan.
Have you ever wanted to dive deeper into the horror movies you love? Beyond the Blood is a horror podcast for fans who want more than just surface level screams. We do deep dives into the movies that shaped us, digging into director commentaries, behind the scenes stories, deleted scenes, and the special features that most people skip. Each episode is a love letter to the genre. We break down how these films were made, the creative risks that paid off or didn't, and the lasting impact they've had on the genre as a whole. From 70s slashers to modern nightmares, we celebrate the craft, chaos, and characters that keep us coming back. If you're the kind of fan who rewatches movies with the commentary on, or you simply grew up in the video store horror aisle, the Beyond the Blood podcast was made for you. New episodes every single week. Subscribe, and let's dig deep. Welcome to the Beyond the Blood podcast.
Do you love movies? So do I. What's up, y'all? It's KB, and I love movies, inviting you to listen to The Conversation, a film podcast where passion meets perspective and opinion. From the old school to the new, I invite a guest on to discuss the movies that thrill us, challenge us, break our hearts, or even blow our minds. There's always new episodes dropping wherever you get your podcasts. So join the conversation. We don't just watch movies. We love talking about them too. The Conversation with KB Loves Movies, a part of Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Thank you for listening. To hear more shows from the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network, please select the link in the description